بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Okay, so inshallah today, as I mentioned before also, we'll start off with a little bit of summary of the previous week first, so we have a connection to the previous week to this week. And then today, inshallah, we'll talk about some of the things like some of the Sahaba who came from with Ansar from Medina. What was their input to their people when they were doing the Pledge of Allegiance, the second one. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made some of the deputies from the Ansar to go back and carry the message of Islam to the rest of the people in Medina. And then we'll inshallah talk about today will be about the people who started off the migration. And we'll just give some of the examples to get an idea of how the migration happened and what the Sahaba had to go through to migrate from Mecca to Medina. And then, inshallah, we'll just stop there because we'll go up to the point where almost all the Sahaba from Mecca, they migrated to Medina, except a few that included Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? And then, inshallah, next week we will talk about the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Mecca to Medina, and it's a very important topic to be discussed. So I want you guys to make sure that attend next week one. It's a very important one because there's a lot of misconceptions about the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that should be clarified, inshallah. Okay. Now starting off the summary wise, so as we talked about last week about the first envoy to Medina, which was Mus'ab ibn Umair radiallahu an, and how he interacted with the people in Medina. And there was some success he received in Medina through some of the, besides the regular people, but two of the major leaders of the Medina that included Sa'ad bin Mu'adh radiallahu an and Usayd bin Hudayr radiallahu an. They are the one who responded to the call of Mus'ab radiallahu an, and that resulted into a great success in Medina because, as we said, then Sa'ad radiallahu an, when he went back to his tribe, and his response to his tribe was that either he will not talk to any one of them unless they accept Islam. And that call resulted into his own tribe. They accepted Islam as a whole, except one person, as we discussed about Al-Usayram. He is the only person who did not accept Islam, and he accepted Islam in Ghazwat Uhud, and he was a martyr. He became Muslim right before the battlefield and became martyred, as was said by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he did little but he achieved great, because we know about the shaheed. Many ahadith on the subject of it, ayat of the Quran talks about it. Like for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٍ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the one who is being martyred or dies in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not call them dead. They are alive. They've been provided rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a hadith talk about them that if a person he died in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will be entered into Jannah without any accountability, but except one though, which is a very important point to remember also, because a lot of us, sometimes we are under debts. So hadith says he will not be accountable for anything except the debt. He still has to pay off the debt. And the person who he owes money to, he will be given, that's between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with him. But anyways, so Usayram, he did very little. He did not even pray a single rak'ah, and he was one of the shuhada. Then we talked about the second Aqaba pledge that was between the 75 people, 73 men and 2 women who came from Medina. That happened between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the people of Yathrib, or later they were called, the city was called Medina. And we talked about Abbas bin Abu Talib, radiallahu anhu, who was not a Muslim, who came along with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he spoke on behalf of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to remind the people of Medina that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is well protected in Mecca. If they are not going to fulfill the pledge, they are better off leave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with his tribe, with his family, and he will be protected there. And then the conversation happened between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the people of Medina. And after while it was all going on, there were two personalities of the Medina. They reminded the people of Medina that watch out what you are, what kind of a pledge that you are getting into. So he wanted to make sure that people they understood well that what this pledge was about. And this is where we left off last week. And I mentioned that, so let's distinguish between Al-Abbas bin Ubadah bin Nadla and Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib. So Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib was the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He came from the side of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not even a Muslim at that time. He became Muslim later on. There was a question raised last week. I want to make it a little bit more clarity on that subject, that why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took Abbas even though he was not a Muslim. Taking help in that kind of in some scenarios, if the person is trustworthy, then in those cases it is allowed. And Rasulullah showed that even not only in this case, but when Rasulullah was migrating from Mecca to Medina, the person who was hired, he was as a guide, he was not a Muslim person. But Abdullah, we'll talk about that person when the hijrah part comes in, the migration comes in. But the point is, in these circumstances, it is allowed for individuals to take the help from. Now, that's different about when you talk about as a state, when you try to take the help, or you let a non-Muslim, for example, to be involved with the state affairs. That's a completely different issue, and that should be discussed some other time. That's not the place to be discussed. So anyways, so Al-Abbas bin Ubadah, radiallahu anh, he talked to the people of Khazraj. And we talked about last week, whenever they said Khazraj or Khazraj, it automatically meant the Aws was included, because this is how they used to refer to them, because Khazraj was a much bigger tribe also. So hence, when he's saying to people addressing to Khazraj, it's meant both, right? So he said, O people of Khazraj, do you know the significance of the pact that you are entering into? With this man, meaning Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are in fact avoiding that you will fight against all and sundry. Meaning, they understood well that giving protection to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not just a simple thinking of, oh, we are just entering into a religion, so we will be started praying and fasting and doing the Hajj only. No, they understood well that this is a man who has come up with a message that is going to shake the world. And that's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, as a matter of fact. We'll see that inshallah, and this is why I said the next week hijrah talk, inshallah, it is very important to be listened to, inshallah. Anyways, so he mentioned to them, if you are, and I'll just put the quote there, but if you have any fear of loss of property or loss of your beloved ones, then you better leave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam now. But if you know that you can support Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as you are pledging or as you are making a pact with him, then go for it. But he said, I swear by Allah that there lies the good of this world and that of the next. Meaning, if you go along with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and you follow what you are saying, there is good for you in this dunya and akhirah. But don't be the one who will break the pact that you are making with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And their reply was, we have already considered the loss of property and murder of our notables, yet we pay him allegiance. But what is our reward? So their question was to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, we are willing to give everything for you, but what are we going to get in return? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's reply was the Jannah, Al-Jannah. Jannah is the thing that you are going to get in return. Now compare this allegiance that they gave to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the other tribes like Amr bin Sasa, okay, or Banu Shayban. They were willing to give bay'ah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were willing to become Muslim, but they were putting conditions like, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will die, the ruling will belong to their family. Or Banu Shayban was saying, oh, we'll defend you from the end of the Romans, but not from the Persians. So those kind of conditions were not accepted by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is not really a condition that they are asking for. They are asking for, okay, we'll give up all that. What are we going to get in return? And the response of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Al-Jannah. And there are other reports that talk about that they said, what a great beneficial deed that we are getting involved into. Okay, so that was Abbas bin Ubadah. Now, As'ad bin Zurara, radiallahu an, so he was one of the first people who came from Mecca to Medina. So he was among the first 6 that we talked about. If you remember, there was the 11th year, the 6 people came to Mecca, they accepted Islam. Then 12 came, then the following year, and then now the 75, right? And now, he is the same person. He wants to make sure that the people are aware of what does this allegiance mean. So he said, when we started to pay allegiance to Prophet ﷺ, Asad bin Zurara stood up and gave the following short order. He says, take it easy, people of Yathrib. We have not covered that long distance except because we have had deep belief that Rasulullah ﷺ is the messenger of Allah. We are already convinced that following him entails departure from the pagan Arabs, even if we were at the risk of our life. Should you preserve in this course, hold fast to it, and your great reward is placed in the hand of Allah. So he continues on and said, but if you are caught in fear, I admonish you to give it up just now, and then you would be more excusable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So give it up now rather than give it up later. That's the theme was from both the Sahaba to the people of Khazraj, people of Aws. So they will not be humiliated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment for breaking the pact with the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Breaking a pact with a Nabi is much, much, much bigger than a small pact people would make a break from other people, even though it's still a haram. To break your pacts or breaking your promises, it's a haram. That as a Muslim, we should be protecting our any kind of pacts, promises that we make, and when we break, of course, there are consequences. There are sin, and of course, there are ways to do the kafara, expiation of if somebody breaks a pact or a promise. Okay, now after that, Rasulullah ﷺ asked them to appoint 12 nuqaba or 12 deputies to preach Islam to their people in Medina. Now, these are the people who are well known among them. They are well versed, know about the deen, so and they had the leadership qualities within them. And among them, 9 of them were from Khazraj, and 3 of them were from Al-Aws, who were appointed by themselves, and Rasulullah ﷺ sent them along with Al-Ansar. So we will hear this term Al-Ansar quite a bit, right? Al-Ansar, when we say these were the helpers, it's from the word Nasara, like in Arabic, Nasara Yansuru, it means to help. And now the people who were helpers, which are Al-Ansar, they are the people of Medina. The reason they are called Al-Ansar, and many hadith talk about that as well, and they distinguish between the group of people who came from Mecca to Medina, or other parts to Medina, and the people who were already in Medina, the one who helped. So the one who helped the rest of the people who migrated to Medina are called Al-Ansar. And the one who migrated to Medina are referred as Al-Muhajirin. So Al-Muhajirin is from the word hijra or hajara, which means the one who migrated. So these are the 12 people. Then now, while all this happened, Pledge of Allegiance was taken by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Meccans on the other side. Okay, so they realized some news broke out that there was a pact going on between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the bay'ah is going on between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the people of Yathrib or Medina. So they want to find out what's going on. So remember, we talked about that when the people of Yathrib or Medina, when they left to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they did not tell the rest of the group that they were leaving to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so the non-Muslims over there, mushrikeen, they were not aware of that Rasulullah. They went to give the bay'ah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, when the Meccans found out, So Al-Abbas bin Nadla mentioned that by Allah who has sent you in truth, we are. So first, when this happened, so Al-Abbas actually gave Rasulullah sallallahu authority, surety that we are strong enough. If you want us to go and fight with them, we will wipe them all out. Okay? Because they were the people who were fighters. As we have talked about in the past, Aws and Khazraj, they fought with each other for decades. So they became very good in the art of fighting. Hence, they said, we are good in this. This is not a problem for us to, if you order us to fight, we'll do it. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's response was that we are not commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are not allowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fight at this point. So, point to understand, people of Medina were aware of it. This is what's going to happen, as we can see from the talk between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba of Medina, that what did that bay'ah or oath of allegiance entail? Because the Meccans, they understood if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam goes to Medina, now he has backup by a huge number of people over there. And once he has backup, he has authority, now they have a much bigger problem at their hand compared to what they were facing right now with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they saw that, how this deen can expand or spread around Arabian Peninsula. So that was a response of Al-Abbas, meaning he gave the assurity to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, this is not what Allah has commanded us yet. Okay, so when the Quraysh hear about this treaty that has happened, so now they start asking around the people, and they ask the people of Medina, and they say, oh, people of Khazraj, it's transpired to us that what you have come here concluding a treaty with the man Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and evacuate him out of Mecca. See, what it means by that here is, and that's another aspect of hijrah to be understood, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going to migrate from Mecca to Medina. He was not running away. That's an important aspect of it. Unfortunately, many of the time I have heard in the khutbs, it's a slip of a tongue or a translation problem that people think of it, that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going from Mecca to Medina, as if he was escaping. No, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not escaping. He was going from Mecca to Medina for a specific purpose. Look, there were Sahaba who migrated from Mecca to Habasha, Abyssinia, twice prior to this hijrah. And Rasulullah did not go. They tried to hurt Rasulullah before too. They tried to assassinate Rasulullah before as well. He did not go. Even when we look at the migration aspect of the Sahaba started going, he did not leave. He waited for the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So which means his actions were directed by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was led by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do the actions. Okay. Now, when the Meccans talked to the people of Medina, so the people who did give bay'ah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they stayed silent. The rest of them, they jumped and they started responding. And they started responding that way, that no, we did not have any kind of a treaty with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul, which we will talk about more when Rasulullah migrated from Mecca to Medina, because this is one of the people who was supposed to be at that point a leader in Medina. And he was hoping to become the king of Medina. And so some of the reports talk about that there was a crown prepared for him, that he will become the king. Okay? And Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul, who was not a Muslim at that time, later on he becomes the head of the Munafiqeen. Inshallah, in the later talks we'll talk about that. So he said very clearly to them that there is no way that any kind of a deal can happen without him knowing. So he was thinking of big of himself, that nobody's going to do anything without his permission, but there was something happen regardless. Okay. But during that time, the people of the Medina who were Muslims, they stayed silent, and that kind of gave the people, the Meccans, some comfort that, oh, okay, probably that treaty did not happen. It was a rumor. That's a different story. Later on, they continued to find more and more information and they did realize that there was a treaty that happened between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the people of Medina. Now, what they did at that point, they tried to follow the people of Medina, but that was too late. They already left for Medina, except Sa'ad bin Ubadah radiallahu an. He's the one who was detained. He was caught, and they subjected him to different kinds of tortures. And later on, Mut'im bin Adi and Harith bin Harb bin Umayyah, who was the brother of Sufyan, Abu Sufyan. He's the one who got in the middle because of the trade relations. And see, this is one of the things for them. Everything was directed by the economic reasoning. This is why you will see later on also, whenever the caravan that was supposed to be going from Mecca to Medina, and the Sahaba were stopping them or creating problems for them, that became an issue for them. And that also helped the Muslims actually, because Meccans were dependent on their trade routes from Mecca to Sham or Biladu Sham. As I said before also, let's not think of Sham means only Syria. So whichever area they were going into. So Sa'ad bin Ubadah radiallahu an, again, you will find these kind of things that these Sahaba, they did not become big names out of nowhere. Sahaba, there were many, right? We know that. When Rasulullah was performing the Hajj, the only one Hajj Rasulullah performed, there were 124,000, according to one report, people who attended the Hajj. Another report says 144,000. But how many of the names do we know? Not many, probably less than 100, if we are the ones who can remember the names, right? What about the rest of 120 plus thousand people, or 140,000 plus thousand Sahaba? So the ones who became known is because of their deeds. Sa'ad ibn Ubadah radiallahu an, look how much of a torture he went through, but he's steadfast. And he's the same person when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. He was one of the people they were thinking of to make him the Khalifa. From the side of the Al-Ansar, this is the same person. They were thinking of, okay, to the point they were talking about, let's make it this way. You can have one from the Ansar, one from the Muhajirin. From the Ansar, they have Sa'ad ibn Ubadah radiallahu anh. Just a reminder, so when we see all these names, when we see repeatedly Abu Bakr, Umar, Ali, Uthman, this is because of their actions. This is why when we read the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are many names that you see over and over. Because of their actions, we still remember them. Okay, so among us also, we can have many of us who are, mashallah, they are good Muslim and all that. Even though I don't know, there are 5,000 students here on campus, but there are very few that you will see who will be attending when you are trying to do something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unfortunately. So these are your actions that count, inshallah, in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Now, the people who started the migration, that included, so after the second Aqaba happened, of course, the Medina is not like we're talking about a huge state that was going to be built right after Rasulullah migrated there. But the Sahaba, Ridwanullah alayhim, they started to migrate from Mecca to Medina. And while they were doing that, many of them, they left all the wealth that they had, or major part of their wealth, their houses, whatsoever they had. In some cases, they had to leave their families as well, because they did not accept Islam. Okay, but for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they migrated. Okay, now Abu Salama radiallahu anh and his family was the first one to migrate. Of course, we're not talking about Mus'ab ibn Umair and Abdullah ibn Maktum, who were the first ones who went to Medina and they were teaching Islam to the people over there. Now, Abu Salama radiallahu anh and his family, they tried to migrate, and they tried to migrate a year before the second or the Great Aqaba pledge. Okay, and when they were about to leave Mecca, when he was with his wife and the child, the family of his wife, Salama's family, they came, and they snatched the boy away from Abu Salama. They broke his arm, And think of it, I mean, imagine the situation you are in. And they took Salama with them. That this is, she belongs to our family, the child belongs to our family, you cannot take him. And Abu Salama, radiallahu an, he ended up going by himself to Medina. Okay. Now Salama, of course, she was a Muslimah. Her husband left. She's with her side of the family, but the son was taken away from her, and she just basically for a year or so continued to cry. So she was crying in the remembrance of her husband and the child, and then finally some of the relatives had some pity, and they let her leave with her son. And Salama radiallahu an, she went out for a journey of about 500 kilometers without anybody whatsoever. And then while she was on the way, she found Uthman bin Talha, who offered her to help her to travel from Mecca to Medina. So that's the story of Abu Salama and his family. Suhaib Rumi radiallahu an, and inshallah I'll try to finish in the next 10 minutes. Okay, Suhaib Rumi, he was, when he tried to migrate from Mecca to Medina, his story was the Meccans stopped him, and he said, "Oh, you were nobody when you came to Mecca," because he was a slave. You were nobody. You had no wealth, nothing. You think you can come to Mecca, make all the wealth, and take all the wealth with you? And upon that, Suhaib radiallahu an, he said, "If you want, you can take whatever wealth I have made, and let me go." And for that, they agreed. And Suhaib radiallahu anh, when he made it to Medina, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he heard about him, he said, Suhaib is the winner. After all, he is the winner. That don't think of it losing wealth mean you are a loser. The action that he did, that action is huge in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we read these stories, the purpose of these stories is not to just think of it as, oh, okay, these are nice stories, or these were superhuman beings, or this or that. No, the Sahaba had their own, they were human beings like you and me. They had to struggle too. But the reason they became the best generation, that they did not shy away in following what Allah Azza wa Jal commanded them. And that's what made them big. And of course, the blessings of the Sahaba, we cannot achieve. We had talked about that in the past as well. But the actions that they took, or even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a human being, the actions he undertook, besides being a prophet, of course, prophets can perform mu'jizat or the miracles. This is not something we are asked for. But the action that he did, if we are commanded to emulate Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it means we are given the capability to do those actions. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not ask us to do those things. La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wusaha. Yeah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do not make you responsible or give you taklif unless Allah give you the istita'a, the capability of performing the action. Okay? Now, so Suhaib was one of the stories, and he left all the wealth, whatever he made, and he moved forward. Now, we'll talk about the migration of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. And Umar did not make the migration himself. He actually went along with three of his friends. He asked them to go with him, Ayyash bin Abi Rabi'a and Hisham bin al-Asi. Now, the story of migration of Umar is very interesting. Ali radiallahu anhu, he mentions about Umar, and that everybody, when they migrated from Mecca to Medina, they snuck out. Okay? Because they were under the threat of Meccans will hurt them. See, there's a difference between you are sneaking out of Mecca to Medina, meaning for the migration purpose. It's different than to say, oh, they ran away from Mecca to Medina. Running away is different than migrating for a specific purpose. Okay, so it was not like out of nowhere Medina became a haven for them, safe haven for them. It was more of a very strategically Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam planned it. Now, Umar was the only person, as Ali radiallahu anhu mentions, that he is the one who did not sneak out. Subhanallah. And when you read that, and I did not put the whole story here, but it's amazing the way he left. He put a quiver filled with arrows, has a sword in his hand. Now, instead of going away without telling anybody in the dark or at a time that nobody sees him, he went to Kaaba. He went to Kaaba, he still had the sword and everything, and he started doing a tawaf of the Kaaba. When he's making a tawaf of the Kaaba, he did not do the tawaf in a way as if in a haste or something, as he's trying to run away. Let me just finish it and go away. No, he's doing in a very casual, nice rhythm. And then he prayed, and after that, every small gathering he found, he went there and he started telling them that he is migrating from Mecca to Medina. And anyone, and subhanAllah, some of the wordings are interesting. He says, may your faces become ugly. To the people he's addressing, the mushrikeen. And he's saying your faces, your nose will be in the dust. He says, and your mother, anybody who wants his mother to cry on him, tatkala, which is meaning that the mother will have the grief that she lost her son. He can follow me. So he's threatening. Instead of going quietly, he's telling them, okay, I am leaving for Medina. Anybody who wants his mother to cry, who wants his wife to become a widow or children to become orphans, follow me. Some idiots try to follow. Now, for that, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu an, he actually gave them the da'wah of Islam. And they learned about Islam and they returned back. SubhanAllah, this was Umar ibn Khattab. And we know of his personality. He had an amazing personality. And it's worth reading about Umar ibn Khattab, really to think of it, to us, to really get energized. To think of it, man, we belong to the ummah that had people like Umar ibn Khattab. The people like Abu Bakr, people like Uthman, people like Ali. And each one has his own specific characteristics, and they were all amazing. So you can pick any and start reading about them, and you get amazed. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, I've been talking about Umar in one of the masajid for past 50 plus weeks now. Talk about Umar ibn Khattab's life. And I'm still not done yet. I think it's going to take another 10 more weeks. But it has so much, because he had a much longer era. When Islam spread, about 10 plus years, he was the Khalifa. Okay, anyway, so Umar, what he did, when he was migrating, besides himself, he migrated, he also invited his friend, he took some of his family members as well. But Ayyash bin Abi Rabi'a and Hisham bin al-Asi, they agreed on, okay, we're going to meet at a certain place. Whoever makes it will continue from there. If it does not make it, it means he got stuck or something happened to him. So we will not waste our time. We will continue our travel. Okay? Now, Umar ibn Khattab and Ayyash bin Rabi'a, and they are the one who made it. But Hisham bin al-Asi, he was not able to make it. He was, actually, one of the reports talk about that he was held back by the Meccans, and to the point that he gave up Islam. Okay? He gave up at one point he gave up Islam. And but Ayyash, he was able to go. But now Ayyash was a stepbrother of Abu Jahl. Okay? And he was also cousin. From his mother's side, he was a stepbrother, but he was also the cousin of Abu Jahl as well. Now, Abu Jahl, what he did was, did I miss something here? Okay. So what Abu Jahl did was Abu Jahl came to Medina with another of his brother, and he talked to Ayyash, and he kind of did something in a tricky way. He started reminding him of, oh, your mother, she has decided she's not going to comb her hair, she's not going to go, she's not going to eat, and she's not going to go, she will stay under the sun. When you talk about under the sun in Mecca, that's a very high temperatures. Okay, as a matter of fact, it was so hot they used to not even come out during the afternoon time. Noontime they would not come out. You would not find people on the street. They stay in the home. And as you know, people used to actually stay or they used to relax during the afternoon time. That's one of the reasons was because of the temperature as well. Now, he came and he started saying this. Umar radiallahu an, again, because these were his friends. So he was always made sure that he took care of the people who were around him. And he had, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him firasa. Firasa can be translated as intuition. He could tell that something is cooking. When Abu Jahl came, he realized whatever he's saying, he is lying. He is just trying to take away Ayyash, radiallahu anh. Now, at least he was a Muslim, and he also gave up later on. He told him, look, if your mother, she's saying she's not going to comb her hair, okay, if she doesn't comb her hair, there will be lice in her head, she will start combing, don't worry about it. She will get hungry, she will start eating. And then the third thing he said about the heat, it will be so hot, she will automatically come out under the sun and go in. Don't worry about it. And then he even offered, he said, look, I am one of the wealthiest people of Mecca. I have wealth in Mecca. You can take half of my wealth. Don't worry about that. You can take half of my wealth. Don't go to Mecca for anything. But Ayyash, because of love of his mother, he went back. So now when he was going back, Omar said, okay, why don't you take my she-camel along with you at least? And if they try to trick you, that my camel is fast enough that you will be able to run away from them. And Abu Jahl, that's what he did. What he did was, when they were going back, he asked Ayyash, can I get on your camel? And Ayyash said, okay, that's fine. And the moment he came down, Ayyash and his brother, Abu Jahl and his other brother, they grabbed Ayyash and they tied him up and they took him back to Mecca as they have got him. And Ayyash also, reports talked about, he also gave up the deen. And I could not find out if he also returned back to Islam or not. Inshallah, look for it. I did not find it. But about Hisham bin al-As and others, anybody who left Islam, and that, by the way, this happened in among the Sahaba as well, the people who became Muslim, they left Islam as well. And for example, Hisham bin al-As, he was one of them. Yeah. And there were others, like for example, at the time of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, when this incident happened, when Rasulullah was telling them, people could not take it. So Sahaba had this thing was understood. Anybody who leaves the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after becoming Muslim, he's doomed. In front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now he is nobody. He will be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When these ayat were revealed in Surah Al-Zumar, that talks about قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ, meaning the people who have transgressed, that don't be hopeless from the rahmah, from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Sahaba said, these ayat were revealed for those people. So Umar right away, he wrote it down, these ayat, on a piece of paper and sent them back to Ayyash and Hisham. So they would know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them. Because they thought of it, because of the pain and the torture they went through, they gave up Islam, okay, they are doomed. But when these ayat were revealed right away, the Hisham, when he received that from Umar, he could not understand, what is he talking about? And he asked Allah to guide him, what does that mean? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him, he came back to Medina, and he became a Muslim again. As I said, Ayyash, I'll look for it, inshallah, what happened. Now, as I have only 1 minute, just to give you, all the Sahaba, they migrated from Mecca to Medina. By now, within a short period of time, by second pledge, and like a 2-3 months period of time, all the Sahaba, whichever the small number was, they migrated from Mecca to Medina, to whom Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave them the permission. And when he's giving permission, means Allah gave them permission. Okay? For himself and Abu Bakr and Ali, he did not give the permission. He did not have the permission from Allah. So he stayed behind until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted him to go. Even though Abu Bakr was he was anxious. He was asking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and at the same time he was hoping that Allah will give him the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he prepared 2 she-camels for the migration for the future, which we will talk about next week, inshallah. We'll stop here, and if there's any questions or comments about today's talk or previous week's talk, I would be more than happy to reply back, inshallah, if I can.